Welcome, everyone. Today, we're doing an exploration into gold. Now, we all know it. We see it in jewelry. We understand its value, right?
Absolutely. It's something very familiar.
But beyond that surface appeal, there are some, well, truly surprising aspects we want to get into.
That's right. We're going to look a bit closer today, uncover some maybe lesser-known facts, and even a pretty unusual reaction some people have to it.
Exactly. We've gathered some fascinating insights that might just reshape how you think about gold. So let's dive in. And maybe start with something that, well, takes a bit of the shine off Olympic glory.
The metals.
Yeah. Olympic gold medals aren't actually solid gold.
No, they're not. And what's really interesting is, what they are made of. They're mostly silver. We're talking around 92% silver.
92%. Wow.
Yeah. And then there's copper that makes up about maybe 6%. So the actual gold, it's only about 1%. Just a thin layer, really.
Only 1%.
Yeah.
That's quite different from what the name suggests, isn't it?
It really is. It shows how powerful the symbolism of gold is. Representing the ultimate achievement is almost more important than the material itself.
And this isn't new, right? This isn't a recent cost-cutting thing.
No, not at all. Turns out, the last time they gave out solid gold medals at the Olympics was way back in 1912.
1912. So for over a century, it's been mostly silver.
Exactly. It really highlights that gap between sort of perceived value and actual material makeup. Gold is the representation, not the main ingredient there.
Okay, that's definitely one surprise down. Now here's another one that sounds almost, well, unbelievable. Gold is apparently edible.
Yes, in its pure form, gold is biologically inert.
Inert, meaning?
Meaning it doesn't really react chemically inside your body. So if you were to, say, ingest pure gold, it just passes through your digestive system. It doesn't get absorbed.
Huh. So technically, a tiny bit of pure gold wouldn't actually harm you?
Technically, yes. And you do see trace amounts sometimes, historically, in like fancy foods or some traditional medicines. But, and this is a big but.
I figured there had to be one.
Definitely. While pure gold is inert, experts strongly advise against eating gold jewelry.
Right, because jewelry isn't pure gold.
Exactly. It's almost always mixed with other metals, alloys, and then there can be coatings or treatments, and those things are definitely not safe to eat. So it's an interesting scientific property, but please don't start nibbling on your rings.
Okay, message received. No gold flake smoothies. Crucial difference there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's shift gears completely. This is where things get, for me anyway, really fascinating. Most of us think of gold positively, right? Value, beauty.
Yeah, generally.
But there's a condition called aurophobia. What exactly is that?
Aurophobia. It's defined as an irrational and really extreme fear of gold, or even just gold-colored objects.
An extreme fear, like more than just not liking it.
Oh, much more.
Yeah.
Think about a typical phobia, like spiders or heights. For someone with aurophobia, gold triggers that same kind of intense, overwhelming fear. Even seeing it, or sometimes just thinking about it, can set off a major anxiety response.
Wow, so it's like the brain's danger alarm is going off, but for gold.
Precisely. The brain misfires, essentially, seeing a threat where there isn't really an inherent danger. And that triggers all sorts of physical and emotional reactions.
And these reactions, they're not mild, I take it? What kind of symptoms are we talking about?
They can be really quite severe. Things like nausea, dizziness, even full-blown panic attacks.
Panic attacks from gold.
Yes. And physically, you might see sweating, trembling, feeling hot or cold suddenly, shortness of breath, maybe even a choking sensation, rapid heartbeat, chest pain, that awful butterflies in the stomach feeling, headaches, feeling faint, numbness, pins and needles, dry mouth. It's a whole cascade.
That sounds incredibly debilitating. Just being near gold could cause all that.
For someone with a phobia, yes. Exposure can trigger an immediate, intense anxiety. It's important to remember, phobias like aurophobia are recognized anxiety disorders. It's not just a preference. It's an excessive, persistent, irrational fear response.
Okay. And do we know where this fits in? Like, are there different types of phobias?
Yeah, broadly speaking, specific phobias tend to get grouped into four main categories. You've got fears about the natural environment, storms, hikes, water, that sort of thing.
Right.
Then fears related to animals, spiders, snakes, dogs. Fears around medical stuff, needles, blood, dentists. And then the fourth category is fears related to specific situations.
Like flying or enclosed spaces.
Exactly. And aurophobia, the fear of gold, would fall into that last category of fear related to a specific situation or object.
That helps place it. But why gold? It seems so counterintuitive given how much society tends to value it. What could possibly cause someone to develop that fear?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the gold-plated question here. The exact origins can be complex, like with many phobias. Sometimes it might stem from a specific traumatic experience involving gold, though maybe that's less common.
Okay.
More often, perhaps, it could be linked to cultural conditioning. Maybe some narratives or historical context where gold is tied to greed, corruption, or misfortune. That could create negative associations.
Ugh, like gold fever, or stories where wealth leads to ruin.
Potentially, yeah. Or it could even be part of a more generalized fear, maybe, of wealth itself, or luxury, or the pressures associated with them.
That's really interesting how societal ideas could twist into such a specific fear. So if someone is struggling with this, what can they do? Is there help available?
Oh, absolutely. Phobias are treatable. The first step is usually seeking professional help, talking to a therapist or psychologist.
And what do treatments typically involve?
Well, common approaches include cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and exposure therapy.
Okay, CBT, that helps change thought patterns.
Exactly. It helps you identify those automatic negative thoughts about gold and learn to challenge and change them. And exposure therapy, which sounds maybe a bit scary, but it's done very gradually and safely.
How does that work?
You're slowly exposed to gold, or images of gold, in a controlled environment, starting small. The goal is to gradually retrain your brain to help it learn that gold isn't actually dangerous and reduce that anxiety response over time. Desensitization, basically.
That makes sense, a step-by-step approach. And, for someone with aurophobia who maybe still likes wearing jewelry, just not gold, are there other options?
Oh, definitely. Plenty of beautiful alternatives. There's platinum, which is very popular, sterling silver, of course. You can also get rhodium-plated white gold that gives a bright white look but masks the gold underneath. And even things like rose gold might be perceived differently because the color isn't that classic yellow. Jewelers have lots of great non-gold options.
That's good to know. Reassuring that there are choices. Okay, one more historical tidbit, and this one is, well, a bit eerie. The reason why European sailors used to wear gold earrings.
Ah, yes, this one is quite something.
It wasn't just fashion, was it?
No, not primarily. It was actually quite practical in a rather grim way. They wore gold earrings essentially as a form of payment.
Payment? For what?
For a proper Christian burial. The idea was, if they drowned at sea and their body washed up somewhere unfamiliar, the gold earring could be taken as payment to ensure they weren't just buried in an unmarked grave, but received a burial according to their faith.
Wow, so it's like burial insurance worn in their ear?
Pretty much. It's a really sobering thought, isn't it? Puts a very different perspective on a simple gold earring in that context. A very practical, if morbid, use for gold.
Definitely gives you pause. So, thinking back over all this, the metals, the edibility, the phobia, the sailors, did anything particularly jump out at you? For me, it's that contrast. Gold as this universal symbol of value, but also a source of intense fear for some.
It really does highlight the sheer range of human experience, doesn't it? How something so desired by many can be genuinely terrifying for others. It's quite remarkable.
Absolutely. So just to recap quickly for everyone listening, Olympic gold medals, mostly silver and copper, only about 1% gold, pure gold. Technically edible because it's inert, but definitely don't eat your jewelry.
Definitely not.
Aurophobia, a real and potentially debilitating fear of gold. And those sailors' earrings, a rather grim but practical purpose.
And it maybe even bringing back to you listening, it makes you think, doesn't it? We have this huge cultural fascination with gold. What other things that we think are universally desired might actually hold these hidden histories or even fears for some people?
That's a great point. It really prompts you to consider the diversity of perspectives out there, often hidden just beneath the surface of what we assume everyone feels.
Exactly. Lots to think about.
A powerful thought to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive today.